Winter storm intensifies across the GTA.
We're Canadian. What are you going to do, right?
We will continue to plow throughout the night and into the morning.
Snow, ice pellets, freezing rain. It's a winter wallop, all right. We'll have more on the storm's impact and how crews are responding. Plus,
nurse practitioners can diagnose, prescribe, and they can see patients kind of independently.
A pediatric clinic in Toronto that's offering patients faster access to care through nurse practitioners, but it will cost you. And
I like it because it kind of shows you everything around you, how the world is built.
with the province's construction industry facing a large labor shortage, what some schools are doing to get young people interested in the skilled trades. Good evening, I'm Kelda Yoon. A significant winter storm is intensifying across the GTA, bringing snow, wind, and ice pellets, and making for treacherous travel conditions tonight. Dale Manukduk joins us live from Etobicoke at Lakeshore and Browns Line. And Dale, thank you for braving the cold and snow for us tonight. How is it looking out there?
Kelda, it's not looking that great, and I would know I've been out here for about 8 hours, so I've really had a chance to see this weather system change throughout the day. It started to pick up at around 3:30, so going on about 8 hours now. The worst of the snow hit around 8 o'clock. The visibility was almost zero on the roads, but now we're into the freezing rain and ice pellets that we knew or heard about was going to come through, but this ice storm, this weather system is going to have lasting impacts in the days to come.
For some, another storm is just that, another storm.
We're Canadian. What are you going to do, right? You know, it's just, it doesn't bother me, you know. Don't drive like a maniac, have snow tires.
And for others, it caused them to adjust plans.
Well, I'm heading out early to get my kids from daycare and school because it's getting nasty out, so yeah.
The storm forcing many services to pivot, the TTC taking 41 bus routes out of service and replacing the Scarborough RT with shuttle buses. Metrolink says GO trains will be operating on a reduced and adjusted schedule tomorrow, and Pearson Airport advising travelers to check their flight status as a number of flights were canceled or delayed. But the storm was well anticipated by the city, which began salting roads earlier today in what will be a multi-day effort.
We will still be out there activating both salting and plowing. So all of our equipment will be on the roads. So we ask everybody to please stay back of the equipment. Try not to pass them. These are rather large, unforgiving pieces of equipment, and it could be dangerous trying to pass around one of these plows or salters so quickly.
Transportation Services says 1,100 pieces of equipment will be deployed to clear the snow. Meanwhile, the city operating 4 warming centers today to support the unhoused, including Cecil Community Center, which opened last month amid mounting pressure to better support Toronto's homeless population.
We know that even when it's cold like this and when it's snowing and windy, that they're at risk for hypothermia and frostbite. And even when the conditions are not extreme, these injuries are quite common.
Now, Kelda, I did speak with Kerry Schmidt of the Ontario Provincial Police Highway Safety Division. He told me that at about 8:30 they were dealing with 24 active collisions on our highways. I also spoke with the TDSB, who says it'll make its decision on whether or not bus service will resume or continue tomorrow at about 6 a.m. They'll make that call, Kelda.
Okay, thanks so much for all of this tonight, Dale. That's our Dale Manukduk live for us tonight. Let's go to Colette Kennedy with a look at what's going on. You've been tracking this storm for us, really intensifying the last couple of hours.
Oh yeah, we're seeing a bit of everything. You see what Dale's standing out there in, and I'm hearing from lots of folks in the areas where we're getting the ice pellets of them really hearing those on the roofs, or with that wind that we have, that if you're out in this, then it hitting you in the face, those pellets can really be a bit nasty. And seeing a prolonged version of that, the ice pellets more than the freezing rain in the Niagara region, although getting some mixing. We're certainly into that winter storm warning and the effects into the GTA, where we are looking at some significant snow, already up to 12 centimeters at Pearson. And the mix line here, so where we go from ice pellets and freezing rain over to the snowfall, that line right here between the purple and the pink hasn't changed a lot. I mean, it does waffle here and there, but we're not seeing a big change in that in terms of the turnover coming into the city. That's okay. The forecast was always talking about this happening here closer to midnight, and so we're getting there. But as it continues to snow, then the higher the accumulation rates will be there. A closer look shows you it's been poking its nose up towards Milton and certainly trying to come around towards Oakville, so you get into some of that mixing there. So here's what we are looking at. Where we get the snowfall without the mixing, we have the higher accumulations, 15 to 25 centimeters or more, a little north and a little bit east. Then there's that area where it kind of comes back and forth. So that's why the snowfall is a little less, but there'll be ice pellets in there, 10 to 15 centimeters. And then this is ice, but it can be freezing rain or ice that we are talking about through this region, because I've been saying more ice pellets that we've been seeing over towards Niagara and back towards Windsor. They had 8 hours of freezing rain, then a break to snow, and then back to freezing rain, but some improvement there. I'll have more details on that coming up, Kelda.
All right, talk to you in a bit. Thanks so much, Colette.
You're welcome.
There are new concerns being raised tonight about two-tier healthcare in Canada, as some doctors in Ontario are now offering patients a chance to buy faster access to appointments with nurse practitioners. As Mike Crawley explains, they're charging about $30 a month, and it's perfectly legal.
Come on in.
3-year-old Lana feels pretty good today. She's seeing Olivia Kavanaugh, a nurse practitioner.
Nurse practitioners can diagnose, prescribe, and they can see patients kind of independently.
The KinderCare Pediatric Clinic hired nurse practitioners when last fall's spike in respiratory illnesses brought overwhelming demand.
Everybody was working their brains out, and we were still turning away close to hundreds of patients a day.
Dr. Dan Flanders' solution, offering patients on-the-spot virtual appointments with a nurse practitioner, but only for those who pay a fee, starting at $29 a month.
It's not ideal that patients have to pay, but it's something. It's going to help increase access.
Dr. Danielle Martin says this is allowed under Ontario's rules. Still, she feels it's unfair.
I do think that this is a form of two-tier healthcare, in that we're talking about giving better or faster access to some patients within a practice than others.
Katie Winstanley goes to a different Toronto clinic. She says her family doctor proposed a similar monthly fee to see a nurse practitioner.
I felt like he was saying, you're not going to find another doctor. You don't really have a choice. If you want to have a family doctor, you have to pay this fee to stay on as a patient with me.
She decided she will pay the $30 a month.
I'm not happy about it. I think it's outrageous.
And this just shows me your oxygen levels.
One twist to all this, in some situations, Ontario actually covers the cost of nurse practitioners, including patients enrolled in a family health team.
If we're pushing for people to see nurse practitioners because it takes some of the pressure off family doctors, then they have to be funded.
And so for those people who say this should be publicly funded, I say I 100% agree.
Ontario's government is not committing to fund nurse practitioners across the board. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
To Queen's Park now, where the Ford government faced another day of criticism and questions about its new health care bill. Details on what's in it only came out yesterday afternoon, and as Lorenda Redicott reports, opposition members say there are a lot of loose ends.
What concrete guarantees can the Premier make today regarding people's safety in these for-profit clinics?
The opposition is looking for details about oversight of surgeries moving to private clinics, something the health minister didn't answer yesterday. Hip and knee replacements are set to begin there next year. The Premier didn't directly respond.
As we're building the healthcare system, the opposition is blocking it every step of the way. They have no solution, Mr. Speaker, for the 203,000 backlog surgeries. We have a solution.
The government says this is about cutting long waiting lists and taking the burden off hospitals.
Thank you, Speaker. You know, the member opposite will continue to protect a small group of individuals who don't want to change, who don't want to see change. What we are protecting, what we are advocating for are patients, patients who are waiting far too long.
I am even less confident today than I was yesterday.
Liberal health critic Adil Shamji says since fully reading the bill, he worries.
What we have is a superficial plan. It says many of the things that we'd like to see, but lacks any of the substance that we need.
Some examples, he says doing inspections and monitoring private clinics is mentioned, but with no concrete details. The same on preventing queue jumping. Late this afternoon, some health unions and the NDP came out in protest of the bill. A spokesperson for the health minister confirms the bill will go to the committee stage. That means it won't be fast-tracked, meaning more time for debate and also any possible amendments.
If the government is going to insist on expanding for-profit health care, draining health human resources and dollars out of our public health care system, I don't see how any of us can even propose an amendment.
The track record with this government is that every time we try and bring up amendments for virtually any bill that they propose in this parliament, they reject every single one of them.
Amendments or not, it's expected to pass sometime in spring. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
Ontario is facing a massive labor shortage. Now, yesterday we told you about how that's affecting the province's construction industry. Now, the problem, older trade workers are retiring and not enough young people want to replace them. But as Patrick Swadden reports, some schools are trying to change that.
Drop by this classroom at Toronto's Central Tech, you wouldn't know there was such a problem getting young people into skilled trades.
I like it because it kind of shows you everything around you, how the world is built.
I'm really excited about that because you can go down, you can go commercial, residential, there's a lot of different options for you.
It's like a guiding hand and teaching you what to do, and soon we're going to be on the job as well.
These students are learning valuable skills that prepare them for work. It's called Specialized OYAP, part of the Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program, where students get a feel for the trades.
Where the disconnect often is that employers sometimes don't want to hire someone who is completely green. They want someone with a little bit of experience.
Matt Bradley runs the program for the Toronto District School Board. He says it gives the students some of that experience employers are looking for.
An incredibly high number of those students participating in the STEP program go on to start their apprenticeships in one of the trades that they had exposure to through the program.
Just ask this former student. He now runs his own electrical company with 6 employees.
This school is basically, it prepared me for the actual life as an electrician. It taught me how to, for example, the very basics, how to strip wires, how to mount electrical boxes, and how to install receptacle switches.
Tahiri now comes back here to Central Tech for new hires. And that's important because Ontario needs 100,000 skilled trade workers over the next decade to meet its goal of building 1.5 million homes. Ontario's Labour Minister says we haven't put enough emphasis on the trades.
For far too long in Ontario, governments of all different stripes have told young people that the only way to be successful in life is by going to university. But that's simply not the truth.
And now that Ontario is putting more into skilled trades programs, they're realizing there's also a shortage of skilled trade teachers.
This is a valid concern. I've heard it across the province as well. I can tell you Minister Lecce is working on this as we speak. And there should be more word on this.
The Ontario government is investing tens of millions of dollars to encourage young people to consider skilled trades as a career option. But the industry has a long way to go. Women make up only 5% of the workforce, and the industry is trying to attract typically underrepresented groups, something programs across the province are trying to do. So, with all these investments, will Ontario be able to meet its goal of 1.5 million homes by 2033? We'll be checking in to see. Patrick Swadden, CBC News.
Welcome back. Halton police are trying to track down 2 suspects responsible for a violent carjacking yesterday. Two men smashed a woman's car window before tossing her to the ground and fleeing with her vehicle. The woman was taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. The incident took place outside a Milton grocery store. Investigators say the stolen CRV was later recovered in Brampton. Earlier in the day, the suspects stole a white pickup truck. Halton police have released an image of one of the suspects at a gas station. They are asking anyone with information to contact Halton police or Crime Stoppers. Officials in Peel Region joined faith leaders at Brampton City Hall today to condemn two recent incidents of hate-motivated vandalism at Hindu temples. Police say they are still trying to figure out a motive, but as Chris Glover explains, some in the community say they know why it's happening.
Graffiti startled devotees at this Hindu temple in Brampton.
Hindustan Murdabad means Hindustan should no longer exist.
Hindu worshipper Naresh Thakur was shaken by the threat against his people.
Once you come to a temple to pray and see somebody is doing that one, it was not nice, it was pretty painful.
A day after it was found on January 30th, the temple painted it over and put up a sign. But on February 14th, this temple in Mississauga was then spray painted with a message calling the Indian Prime Minister a terrorist.
Anti-Hinduism, anti-Hindu, and it is becoming a point whereby we cannot just say, we'll let it go.
The faith leader of that Mississauga temple stood alongside regional leaders at Brampton City Hall today.
Our children shouldn't see that. They shouldn't see hate in our country or our city or our region. And so I think it's important as leaders that we stand up and say to any community that is facing hate that there's zero tolerance for that.
Everybody is invited to the Mississauga temple Friday evening to help wash it away.
Washing away the hate is something that I've coined and believe that it really fits the situation. We're not going to fight fire with fire, but fighting fire with water is the only way you will extinguish it.
Peel police think the two hate incidents are connected.
Absolutely, the feeling is that this is hate motivated. That's why it occurred. Only the people that committed those crimes will be able to explain exactly what the motive was behind that.
By using the word Khalistan, some Hindus think they know a potential motive.
We all, love each other. And, my best friend, my best buddies are from different religion. It doesn't matter any particular religion. But it's only very small segment of the people who, for their own personal gains, I strongly believe, trying to spoil this harmony.
Peel Region is one of several international locations where the Indian diaspora has been voting in a Sikh-led referendum. It's a non-binding vote aiming to garner international support for the separation of a region of northern India to become Khalistan. It's led to violent clashes and vandalism in other locations like here in Melbourne, Australia. Naresh Thakur thinks whoever is behind it supports the Khalistan separation.
They're certainly anti-Hindus. For them to target the place of worship, obviously I don't see them from any religion per se.
He doesn't believe it could be a Sikh person because he says no person of faith could attack another place of worship. Chris Glover, CBC News, Brampton.
Today is Pink Shirt Day, and many are showing their support, especially young ones.
It's important because it's like a message to not bully anybody because it's rude.
Annual event to take a stand against bullying and promote kindness and togetherness. Hershey and BGC teamed up to host a local event for parents and kids of all ages. The event taking place at St. Albans Club this afternoon with activities like painting. Organizers saying it's important to learn to be inclusive starting at a young age. All right, let's go back to Colette now. Colette, a messy one out there tonight, and the morning commute looking to be another really treacherous one.
Yeah, it's messy right now because of what's happening, and tomorrow morning it'll be more because of what's left behind. So let me show you one of the things we're dealing with at the moment, and these are some of the stronger wind gusts. Maybe at the moment not that impressive in Toronto. They've been there around 40 kilometers an hour, but look at Hamilton, nearly up to 70 kilometers an hour with those wind gusts. So these are some of the areas where we have the stronger wind gusts, where we're getting the ice pellets as well. So think of this like hard pellets of ice, sleet, heat, and it's being blown around. Also, of course, in the areas where it's snowfall, it's blowing that snow around, so making visibility really, really awful for tonight. And the wind's also doing this, taking the temperatures and putting them together with that wind, making it feel like minus 15 in Toronto, minus 14 in Hamilton, Kitchener minus 15. So some really significant wind chills out there as well. Look at what's happening here with this freezing line. You notice it moves a little bit. I mean, it waffles somewhat, but it's generally been pretty steady west to east. The other thing I'd like you to notice is back towards Windsor. Windsor, 10 hours of freezing rain or light freezing rain reported. It'd be 12, except 2 of them, it kind of moved over to a light snow mix. But improvement is occurring there. Let me show you what happens as I push this forward through time. So we're going to jump from the satellite and radar imagery and look at what goes on with the models. So watch the line and watch the timeline here. As I move this forward, as we get past midnight, it doesn't change much. It's still right around Toronto, so a little bit of mixing. I'm seeing reports of some ice pellets mixing in with our snow, but it's also moving off to the east. So just as it's about to mix, we see a little bit of that, but then it's also pushing away, and we're getting into some drying out behind this. Now, not drying out completely. That's a really important note, is that tomorrow morning, yes, we'll be into what's left behind from the storm. We'll be dealing with that. But even through the afternoon hours, a little bit of patchy, freezing drizzle may come back. Most of the snow will stay to the north, but some patchy freezing drizzle could make some tricky spots on the roadways for the afternoon commute tomorrow. Freezing rain and ice pellets, 10 to 15 centimeters where there's more of a mix, and then it's 10 to 20 centimeters we're seeing elsewhere. And, you know, you can believe that because I'll tell you, we've already seen over 12 centimeters at Pearson, so that's looking pretty much like it's bang on. Do know that behind the system and what it leaves behind, it'll be sticking for a while as that cold air pushes in through Friday.
All right, thanks so much for that, Colette. Finally tonight, an emotional ceremony at the Royal Ontario Museum today. Artifacts that belonged to a 19th century Cree chief were finally returned to his family, nearly a century and a half after they were taken.
Those objects, I've said it before, those objects have life and they're very powerful. This is a special meaning for us as Indigenous people to be able to have these objects back.
Chief Poundmaker was known as a peacekeeper, but in 1885 he was wrongly found guilty of treason and served 7 months in prison. A number of his belongings were taken and later housed in museums. They include a saddlebag and ceremonial pipe that have lived more recently in the ROM. His great-great-granddaughter, Pauline Poundmaker, also known as Brown Bear Woman, has been leading efforts to repatriate the belongings. She says the growing movement of institutions repatriating items shows there is a willingness to address previous harms against Indigenous peoples. And that is our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Marivelle Tarouk has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6. I will see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Have a great night, everyone, and stay safe.